The most awaited question that we all want to know is where are the markets now, equity markets, according to our valuation? And I know our job also involves forecasting as a measure. And there are a lot of questions that come on the market outlook. To be putting a straight point as a fund house, we actually do not have a view for anything less than 3 4 years. So there are questions about where the markets will be in next 1 year, 2 year. To our audience, it's not possible for us. The process that we are using to forecast the market in a very, very short term. Vinay, am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. I will just add to this, Saurabh. If you, and I am sure everyone present in this webinar would remember what was the market view in April 2020. The market view was completely somber. We are in a great depression. The markets are completely broken. We will not go anywhere. I think all of us need to appreciate this is what was the popular thought process. The entire world was thinking what is going to happen to the stock market in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. We said at that point of time very clearly, and we showed it with some data. The markets at that point of time, which is in April 2020, were trading at historical low valuations in terms of price to value. At that time, markets were trading approximately at a 30% discount to fair values. So I think at that point of time, people were not appreciating that, and the reason was short-term expectation. And hence, we want to caution everyone present in this webinar. Remember, equity is a very long duration bond. Just like when you are investing in a 30-year bond, you are looking at 30-year interest rates. You are looking at YTM of a hold to maturity of 30 years. Remember, equity is a similar kind of a long duration bond. The benefits of equity will only and only come to you if you remain invested for a very long period of time and do not keep looking at equities NAV on a regular basis. The best thing about equity is that it is liquid, but that also becomes the worst part. We need to remember liquidity is for the benefit of investors. The daily prices which are being given to us, it is only for our benefit. It is not to ensure that we panic or we enter into a greed mode. So now coming to your question, Saurabh, what is our view on the markets? So I will just not take too much of time here, just talk about the big tailwinds, which means positives, and headwinds, which means negatives for the markets, and then summarize. So according to us, as I said, equities are a very, very long duration bond. So let's say if you are investing in a 30-year, 40-year bond, government bond, it will be very sensitive to interest rates, right? Same is the case with equity. Equities are long duration bonds, and hence they are very, very sensitive to interest rates. And where are the interest rates now? They are at all-time lows. So this is positive for equities as of now. Lot of quantitative easing, which means central banks, not just in India, across the world, have flooded the bond markets with money. And what it results in is reducing interest rates. What is the return you are getting in your FD now? You know, right? 1 year back, if your FD return was X, it is now X minus 3%. So whenever there is a reduction in rates, it is good for equities. The second aspect, and which is positive for equities, is better than expected economic recovery from the impact of the pandemic. So when the pandemic started in early June 2020, April 2020, there were a lot of estimates. The economy is gone for a toss, the impact would be 15%, 20% on the economy, so on and so forth. We have looked at a very organized set of consensus of professional economic forecasters, like for example, IMF or rating agencies like India Ratings or CRISIL, etc. And we have taken an average of all of these forecasters for every quarter since the start of the pandemic. At the start of the pandemic, almost all forecasters were forecasting approximately 13 to 14% negative impact on of the pandemic on the economy. However, as we speak today, this number has reduced to just about 9 to 10%. And this 9 to 10% is the overall impact of the pandemic on the GDP over FY21 and FY22, this previous year and this year. So the second big positive or good or positive for equities has been better than expected economic recovery. The third positive, and I think a lot of people have forgotten this positive, is low corporate taxes. 6 months before the pandemic started, the finance minister announced a game changer event, which was cut in corporate taxes. And the government also announced a bigger reduction for new manufacturing facilities. And these new manufacturing facilities will enjoy a low tax rate till perpetuity. And this impacts the DCF or discounted cash flow valuation of companies. This, according to us, is a very important positive for equities and is likely to result in further improvement of valuation for or fair values for companies. There have been a lot of actions from the government in the form of stimulus, like for example, the production linked incentive. This is a new scheme, a game changer event, which is likely to increase production of a lot of things in the economy and is likely to give a lot of incentives to many companies, many of them which are listed. So once again, a very important positive for equities. The third positive, which is now gradually diminishing. So today, I think we got some weak news on monsoon. So our fingers are crossed. At the start of the season, there were expectations of a normal monsoon, and it could have been a positive. But as we speak now, it is turning out that some areas are going to face some deficient monsoons. So that might turn into some bit of a weakness. In terms of what is the risk or negatives for the Indian equities, we would like to highlight it upfront. Markets are trading at expensive valuations. We have borrowed returns from the future. And hence, if we invest in the markets now, the returns which are likely in the next 3 to 5 years are likely to be lower than the underlying fair value growth. Having said that, that is still attractive compared to many other investment options available to investors. But importantly, we should be toning down our expectations, reducing our expectations in terms of returns for equity as an asset class. And remember, you will get all benefits of equity if and only if you remain invested for a longer period of time, irrespective of any volatility in the market. The reason why we are getting higher returns in equity over a longer period of time is because we have to endure this volatility. In fixed deposit, there is no volatility. If you put in 100 rupees today, you are certain to get 104 rupees after, let's say, 1 year. There is no fluctuation. In equity, this 100 rupees may go down to 70 rupees. So you have made a loss, or this 100 rupees may go up. And that is the reason why we get a superior rate of return in equity. So the negative number one is expensive valuation, for which investors need to tone down their return expectations in the future. And second is be very, very careful of higher interest rates. According to us, a trigger for some sort of a correction in markets could be if the interest rates rise substantially and sustainably. We would like to highlight that this has been risk for the last 10 to 12 years and it has not yet fructified. But As investors, we need to remember that this could be a risk, and hence we are highlighting that. As a fund house, and there is a lot of confusion on this large cap versus mid caps and small caps nowadays. We have seen a huge strong performance from small and mid caps. A lot of investors are now swearing by small and mid caps for the next 10 years.
Sorry, Vinay, to interrupt in between, since you are covering the large, mid, and small, there have been a lot of questions coming on this space. So,
okay. We'll take it separately, is it?
No, take it over here only, because since you're covering this, I'll just read out few of them to you.
Okay.
Mr. Manoj Rastogi from Delhi has asked, when is a small cap correction expected? Right? Should the new money be going into mid caps or flexi cap? What is our call on the mid cap space? Mr. Rajesh Kumar from Allahabad has asked, and Mr. Mukesh Patel wants to know if from Ahmedabad, if is a small cap more attractive now compared to a small mid. The idea is there's a lot of confusion on the cap right now, and I think that is where if you can also cover when you're talking about the cap curve on the value.
So I think once again we would like to clarify. When we look at valuations, we look at what is the next 5 years, 10 years growth in fair values. What is the price we are paying to acquire this fair value? And then we look at what is the potential return. As a fund house, we have approximately 65 stocks in mid caps, about 65 stocks in small caps, which we are covering, and 65 in large caps, as Sanjay highlighted in a short while ago. So when we are talking about valuations, we refer to the actual data from all of these about 200 companies. And when we look at these companies, and remember, these are the top quality companies, which are the most investable companies. When we look at the data from these companies, it seems very clear that as we speak, large caps have become more attractive compared with small and mid caps. Doesn't mean small and mid caps are likely to crash. Doesn't mean you should not invest in small and mid caps. What it only means is that if your allocation as an investor is higher in small and mid caps, you should reduce it in favor of large caps. So just to reiterate, we have a flexi cap fund. The mandate of this fund is to invest across large caps, mid caps, and small caps, and generate alpha using using the movement around the cap curve. For example, if large caps are cheap, we would want to allocate more money to large caps compared to small and mid caps. And when small and mid caps are cheaper, we will allocate more money towards small and mid caps. For example, in April or May 2018, our flexi cap fund had invested almost 85 to 90% of the fund assets in large cap. Small and mid cap exposure was very, very limited. This was because the valuations were extreme in favor of large caps. As we saw a correction in small and mid caps in the subsequent months, we gradually built our positions back in small and mid caps. This process continued for the next 6 months to 1 year, and then we had been maintaining a fairly neutral position across large, mid, and small. We are now once again saying that large caps have become more attractive compared with small and mid caps, and hence we would recommend that investors increase their allocation towards large caps and reduce their allocation to small and mid caps. But just one caveat, if you have invested in small and mid caps for a 10-year investment horizon, you can remain invested, but just remember the prospective returns have reduced, and hence the risk reward has become slightly unfavorable in favor of large caps now.
Thanks, Vinay. While the next point also is on the sector underweight overweight, so I will over there, and if you can cover it, in this.
Yeah.
While I understand, Vinay, that as a fund house, we don't have a top-down view. Whatever sector underweight, overweight typically happens in our portfolio is purely from a bottom-up perspective. But still, there are some questions on sectors. Request if you can take them. So, some of the questions on sector from Mr. Abhi Gupta from Hyderabad is that we are observing a lot of startups in the agriculture sector. Is it going to impact the listed space on the agriculture? Uh, Mr. Manish from Rachi wants to have a view on banking, financial services, and IT. Mr. KV Balakrishnan from Coimbatore wants to have a view on pharma and chemicals. So if you can give a quick roundup on the sectors, it will help everyone. Yeah, thanks.
Sure, sure. So I think as a fund house, we keep looking at the risk reward for individual sectors based on a bottom up basis. So sector allocation is a result of stock selection, as you rightly highlighted, and hence if there are more stocks which are attractive in a particular sector, we are overweight as a fund house, and vice versa. So based on our current positioning, we are overweight sectors like IT, that is information technology or the software companies. We are overweight telecom sector. We are overweight industrial companies. Industrial means capital goods type of companies. Why are we overweight these type of companies? The reason why we are overweight IT companies or the software companies is because these companies are seeing a significant shift in terms of their demand for their business. And this is not one time. Remember, we are not enthused by one time increase in demand. What we are more enthused is long term significant improvement in demand on the upward side. And this is what is happening to many IT companies. These companies have over a long period built a lot of capabilities, and now that the demand is strong, they are going to reap a big advantage in terms of volume and value growth. While people are worried about valuations, we have a unique approach towards valuations, which we have highlighted in the beginning, which is the fair value approach to investing. And this approach looks at returns on equity, growth, riskiness of the business, and interest rates. And from the prism of these four factors, IT companies are still reasonably attractive and they offer good upsides. Hence, we are overweight this sector. In terms of telecom sector, this sector has been one of the worst impacted sectors in the last 10 years, predominantly due to huge competition, high investment, and low returns on equity. And this is a classic case of fair values. When we look at fair value or quality of companies, we do not look at rear view mirror or historical numbers. We look at future. Just like our study on the quantitative side highlighted that markets give more value to future quality, future growth. Same is the case for telecom sector. We feel that the future returns on equity of this sector is likely to be significantly higher than the past because the sector is now completely consolidated. There are just two major players which are controlling this sector, and this sector is like a staple diet for every individual in the country. So this sector is likely to see significant improvement in returns on equity and also improvement in growth, which we think the market is not yet pricing in. We are overweight this sector. The third is industrial sector. This is a cyclical sector, capital goods companies. We think coming out from COVID, a lot of companies would be spending more money in increasing their capacities. For example, we have seen a lot of commodity companies getting good benefits in the last 2 to 3 years. And a lot of these companies are giving new orders to expand capacities to many of these cap goods companies, infrastructure companies, and hence we think these companies are likely to do well in the medium to long term, given their current valuations. So we are overweight this sector as well. In terms of, I think you talked about pharma sector and chemical sector. We are sort of neutral weightage there, purely because the valuations are more or less capturing in most of the upsides in most of the pharmaceutical companies. And by the way, we are less exposed to the traditional pharmaceutical companies and more exposed to the newer age pharma companies, which are more export oriented. They have developed significant economic moats around their business by developing strong processes towards manufacturing, and they are like factories to the world. We have seen big impact of that during the pandemic in the last 1 to 2 years. So pharma, we are almost equal weight or neutral. Chemicals, it's been a sector which is having a lot of which has attracted a lot of people in the past. It has delivered huge returns, significant improvement in valuations. It has seen good growth in fair values for companies, but now we are turning cautious. We think a lot of this current growth rate is getting significantly extrapolated into the future, and we are turning a bit more cautious on the chemical space than we were in the past. We have reaped very good returns from this sector, but now we are turning cautious, and we think that investors should now also look at what could be the impact of fluctuation in raw material prices, because many of these companies have enjoyed good benefits of commodity tailwinds also in their income statements. In terms of underweights, which are the sectors where we are less exposed to? The top of that is utilities. Utilities means the regular power companies, the power distribution or transmission companies, etc., or gas companies. So many of these companies are regulated companies, entities, and there is a cap on the returns on equity which they can generate. So these companies at best can be looked at as bargains. At one point of time, we had a good exposure, but now because the valuations are no longer favorable, they are no longer attractive as a bargain, and hence we are underweight utilities. We had been significantly underweight financials. During the second wave of COVID, we thought there would be a meaningful impact on a lot of companies, like lending companies, which are like banks and non-bank finance companies. And we had a meaningful underweight financials and banks. Having said that, recently we had seen a far bigger underperformance for the financial services companies, especially the good quality ones which we like. And hence, we have started to reduce our underweight position in financials. Having said that, we still remain underweight, but the magnitude of underweight has reduced to some extent. And the last category of companies which we are underweight is materials. Materials are predominantly commodity companies like steel, cement, iron ore, etc., or aluminium. So generally, we think that many companies will struggle to generate sustainable returns on equity in this segment of the market. And hence, whichever companies we thought can sustain their quality over a longer period of time, we have invested in them. But still, despite all of this, we remain underweight in this sector. And hence, I think that is one more sector which we are underweight. So yeah, I think sort of those are the broad sector views for us.